Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, today we have Grandmaster Rahul VS with us on Heramb Show. So first of all, Rahul, welcome to the Heramb Show. So Rahul, I first of all want to ask you is how did you get started with this journey? How did you get introduced to the game of chess?
See, I got introduced in a very funny way because when I was around 5 years old, I used to be very hyperactive. So my mom and dad they wanted me to, find a way to make me sit down in a particular place for more than 5 minutes. And we had a very small chess. It's not even an academy. In a very small house, there were like many children coming and learning chess. So my mom took me to that particular place, and we started. I started playing chess against kids my same age, and I found a game very interesting. So instead of running around physically, like I had to sit and think about the chess inside my mind. So I learned to redirect my energy in this particular space.
Okay, that's very interesting because I think many people they start like this because they are like either very hyperactive or they are into video games or they are watching too much TV. So the parents say that okay, and now let us put them into chess so that they can learn to sit at one place,
Yeah.
right? Okay, and then like how did it go? Like once you started playing with kids, how did you get introduced to tournaments and all?
Can you repeat? I did not get it correctly.
Yeah, sure, sure. So I'm saying like once you started going to the academy or the small place where the kids were
Yeah.
playing chess. So after that, how did you get introduced to tournaments? Your initial coach did that, or how did it go?
Actually, I think it's mainly because at those days in Chennai, there used to be a lot of age category weekend tournaments. So I
Mm-hmm.
remember I used to play weekend tournaments for continuously for 2 years straight. I did not play a federated tournament for like 2 years after I started chess. And it was mostly each and every week we used to go to different schools in Chennai where I think even to get my first prize, it took me at least 1 year to get a first place in the weekend events. And I remember when I first got a prize, I used to get like 10th prize or 12th prize, where I used to be very happy. I feel, okay, finally I got a prize. Instead of just always coming and playing, I could get 12th prize. And but soon when I was around 7 years old, I was one of the top in my state at the age level. I used to be like
Wow.
top three, top five always. And I mean, I don't think I won the state championship until I was like 15, but I always be in top three all the time. And I used to finish, like most of the time, I get tied for first, but I finished third or something like that. So I think that particular period where I started chess, at that time, I did not do a lot of books. We did not even solve a lot of puzzles. There was not that kind of training happening. So that most of the training was just keep playing lots of games. And I think that's what I did for 2 years since I started chess.
Okay. But was it just playing or was it also analyzing? Like playing the game and then you were analyzing the game, or was it like you're just playing the games and you got better?
Don't we really fix it? We see, okay, if there's any direct blunder, we see, okay, this is a blunder and stuff like that. But in general, there was not much of analyzing. It was more like just enjoying the game. We just kept playing.
Wow.
We don't take breaks. We just keep playing. Okay, I remember this time I make this kind of tactics. I would not fall for the same tactics. Something like this. I just kept playing and I got trained like that.
Got it. Interesting, interesting, very interesting. Because nowadays, like what I see is even the young kids who are like 10 years old, they are like very, very competitive. They will spend like 2, 3 hours on books. They will have a personal trainer. They will have all kinds of resources. And I'm not saying it's bad, but I see there is a big contrast in the story. like, and that is very inspiring because what I see is many times people sometimes they complain that I don't have enough resources. But what I see with you is like without having I will not say without having too many resources, but I will say like just by playing games and analyzing or not analyzing but understanding where you're going wrong, you are trying to become better. That's great. That's really amazing.
I think
So
at that age, it was more like yeah, I was just crazy about chess. I just really
sorry, sorry.
loved
Just
chess.
just 1 minute. I'll just open the door. There's someone at the
Yeah,
door.
sure,
Really sorry.
sure.
Sorry for this. Yeah, sorry, sorry. Yeah, sorry. So you were telling something. We'll edit out this part. Yeah, you
Yeah,
continue.
sure. No, actually, what I was saying was in that particular period, it was not about whether I mean, obviously, if you ask a kid, they would like to say, okay, they want to become a world champion or a grandmaster. But more than that, at that age, it was more like I just loved the game so much. I just kept playing it again and again without thinking much. And only once I started analyzing, I started understanding better the game. By the time I understood better, at that age, it was like when I was 1200 rating, I was already like top five or top six in my state
Oh,
age. So it was like by the time you become one of the top in state age category, you're already like just understanding level you increase and then you understand chess, so now you have to prepare. Before that you were just enjoying the game.
okay. Okay. So what I can understand from what you're saying is enjoying the game is the most important part, right?
Yeah.
In the entire journey, like if you don't enjoy doing something, then it is just chasing more and more ratings and titles, correct?
Yeah.
So, one interesting question which pops into my mind, Rahul, is after so many years, now that at that time you were a young boy, okay, you might be like 7 years old, 9 years old, whatever it is. But now, after so many years playing chess for maybe like 15, 20 years now, so
Yeah,
what's your drive now? What makes you enjoy this game at this point, at this stage in life?
I think so there are different stages of different types of ways I enjoyed chess. When I was young it was just a game, and when I was in my teenagers it used to be about chasing some particular goal and stuff. But as I was turning into an late teen and young adult, what happened to me was I realized it was too much pressure just to have some goals. And slowly I began to, slow down in my mind to have any particular too much pressure, but rather I learned to enjoy chess itself. So if you ask me, compared to playing lots of tournaments or to, work on chess for long hours, I would definitely choose working on chess for long hours because the game is so beautiful a lot of times. It's like just looking, appreciating the beauty of chess. It's like that's one of my favorite goals to enjoy the game. A lot of times we are so focused on, about rating, about titles. We don't enjoy the game itself, but that's why I love about training. In training I just get to appreciate the beauty of the tactics or beauty of the decision that we are taking, and that helps me slow down as well. I don't have to worry about whether I'm losing rating or whether I'm going to win the tournament, but rather something I'm doing something that I like. That is how I enjoy chess at the moment.
Wow, amazing. One amazing thing I picked up from you, Rahul, is like what you said is I enjoy the training sessions.
Yeah.
So majority times, like if I ask any chess player who love chess, he will say, "Of course, I love to play chess." Everybody will say that, right? But the magic is like you not just enjoy playing chess, but you also enjoy the training sessions. Am I going right? Like, am I right with this? Or
Yeah.
yeah. So wow, that's I think a very good lesson for all the young chess players who want to become better is not just playing chess, but also preparing and also all the things which goes before the match are very important. You need to enjoy that entire process.
Yes, today, especially since there's too much media coverage, it
Mhm.
has both positive and negative impact on children, especially because they get pressured of, okay, someone else is doing so good. And if they're stuck for like 6 months or 1 year, they get too much pressure. So in that sense, this would help them a lot because if you don't enjoy working, then you don't even enjoy like getting the results because you
Mhm.
don't enjoy your entire journey. And that's one thing that I learned in a hard way because I used to get stuck at various points, and only when I really started to enjoy the work, I started to grow.
Wow, wow, amazing, amazing. That's really nice. Okay, one question, Rahul, I have for you. You just said like at the age of 7, you were like 1200s rating, correct? Like you were around 1200. And I see that that is like the starting rating. I think at that time the rating started from 1200.
Yeah.
I don't know if it started from 1000 also, but I think it's like the most basic rating.
Yeah.
So many people they get demotivated when they have a very low rating. Like if they are 1400, 1500s, they will feel like very low because they're at the very bottom. And if let's say they want to become grandmasters, which is their ultimate aim, it's like a long journey. Going from 1400 to 2500 is like 1100 points, which is a lot. It's too much, right? So, any advice you would like to give on how your journey, or you can even explain your journey, like how you went from the 1200 rating to all the way up to 2500 rating?
First of all, it's mainly thanks to my parents. They did not put me too much pressure because
Hmm.
if you're a small kid, it doesn't matter to you whether you're 1200 or 1300 or 1400 in general because you don't take the pressure yourself. You learn it from your environment that, okay, I am lower than this, I'm lower than that. It's like in my case, okay, my parents would tell me, like, okay, you know what, you have to improve, you have to play well, but they don't ever tell me, like, okay, why are you stuck here, or this, why did you just play like this, or why are you stuck at 1200? Because I was stuck at 1200 for a year and a half after I got
Hmm.
the rating. And I was just a small kid trying to, learn the game at the time.
Hmm.
And I don't think till I was 14-year-old, I was even thinking about these pressures. And in my journey, what happened was I was stuck for a while after I got my rating. And that time I got introduced, I came to Chess Gurukul. It is a RB Ramesh class.
Hmm.
And yeah, because for the very first time when I came, they put me on a B. At that time, it was not like what is it is today. At that time, they had like group A, B, C, only three groups they were having. And in that group A would be taken by Ramesh sir, and BC would be by other teachers for lower raters. And I used to be on group C or B. So I used to be on group B. And but the thing is, I was performing little well because I was so interested in just learning about things. And Ramesh sir he himself told me, like, my mom told me, he himself told me to join his class. And I joined Ramesh sir class when I was like 1200 or 1300. And that was like, at that time, he was not putting anyone below 1600 or 1700 in his class. I think that was like a huge change for me. But in general, what I believe is, as long as you're learning without having so much pressure, you shouldn't worry about, because having something to look forward is really nice. Let's say you're 1200 or 1400, right, or 1400 starting. Having to look forward to becoming a grandmaster, or I look forward to having crossing some boundary, that gives a lot of motivation and boost. So
Hmm.
instead of looking it as a negative thing, I think it's a very positive thing, right? You're getting a lot of motivated, that you have like, so much energy in you that you feel like so much hope that you're going to become a grandmaster or cross a particular rating. And we can use that particular energy into training, which will be
Hmm.
like helping us a lot. At least this is what it used to be my principle. Like, I used to not think too much, but this is how my journey was in general.
Got it. Okay. Okay. Very interesting. So, if I have to summarize, like, don't take too much pressure, especially about the result, right?
Yeah,
Like, that is what the thing is. And I think, like, as you properly pointed it out, is like it's the parents who give the pressure. And like, even when I tell the parents, I tell them that if your child loses a game, just give him a candy first. Okay, give him a chocolate first, give him a candy, and you don't talk about the game for some time. Once he cools down, then you can discuss things. So I think the managing the parents is like, or I would put it in a different way. The parent understanding the child's journey is also equally important. That is how I see it. So,
for parents also is okay. It's kind of new for parents because they are also
mm,
like, if the parent is not involved in these kind of fields, it's completely new to them. So for parents, it's an extra job because they have to manage their own emotions as well as managing the children's emotion. So it is a really difficult job, I agree, but at the same time, um, if as long as our own emotion doesn't affect the children much, I think they have their own room to grow. So that actually, I also coach, so I also meet with a lot of childrens. So I see they themselves have a lot of intelligence and intellect, that they are able to create their own type of thinking and emotions. So there's
mhm,
nothing much for us to put our emotions or our way of thinking into them. So if I believe we just have to give them enough space to grow themselves.
wow, nice, nice, very very well said, I would say, because you summarized it perfectly. Like, we should not put our emotions on them, our expectations. If we put it on them, then it becomes extremely difficult for the child to perform because already there is so much pressure. chess is already, I would say, a game which
Yeah.
requires a lot of concentration. You have to sit for 3 4 hours. On top of that, if we say like, okay, now you have to manage my expectations, it becomes more difficult. So, correct me if I'm wrong. What I have understood from this is every child's journey is different. If
If
like we put our expectations that hey, child A has increased 200 points in 1 year, and child B should also increase 200 points in 1 year, then that is like a big drawback. That is what I have understood from this conversation. Am I right? Am I going the right way?
it's totally correct because each of them they have a different level of learning capacity, and more than that, I mean, I feel there's two different ways of thinking here. One is like the learning journey itself, like each children is different. Another one important lesson that I learned looking at my chess career or people around me is like your length or the way more high you go, it depends on how tenacious and how much you can keep holding on without giving up. Because I see a lot of very young talented in my from my generation itself. They were like doing extremely well, but they couldn't take the pressure out or they couldn't handle it and they stopped the journey quite early. And I mean, I was like never the, the very top talented person, but I was always the above average person. But for me, I had to just keep grinding for a longer time, and I was able to reach my goal. While I seen few other players who get very depressed, and for them, being in chess no longer help their mental health, and they have to leave. So I think that is one of the major quality any child and any
Yeah.
person should have.
But how to develop that? Can you give any examples? Because let me just give the scenario. What happens with the young child? Let's say the child is 17 years old. Let's take an example. He's a strong chess player. Let's say he is rated like 2000s. Let's say 2200. He's like a good chess player. He is up there, but he's still not at the master level. Now, many players they try, and this is the stage where multiple people give up. This is what I have seen, and there are multiple reasons because at 17, obviously they are not earning. So the burden is on the parents to give the sponsors. So if now they're financially very strong, that's out of question. But if they're not financially that strong, then they have additional burden that, oh, I'm wasting my parents' money. And
Yeah.
I can tell you this because even I used to think like this that, oh, I'm not for something. When I was 17, I was losing some games in tournament. I used to feel like, oh, I'm just wasting my parents' money. So how do you handle that pressure? Because uh, especially at that age, like 17, 18 age.
Okay. I did not handle it well. I will say it openly. I was not handling well, but up- I think there are two different ways. First, before coming to my personal journey, I would also like to say one thing. I think as a teenager or a child, one thing we also have to understand is the parents, they also make their own choice, right? They choose to, invest, they choose to support us. So even though
Mhm.
we feel like a lot of burden, we have to understand our parents also know all of these things. They also
Mhm.
know our journey. They also know what we are doing, and they still
Mhm.
choose to support us. So because I personally, it was having a negative effect on me because I was like, okay, every time I used to have a bad tournament, I was thinking, okay, there's so much financial pressure I'm putting on my parents, and
Yeah.
it was not helping me at all. But I think one thing, I if if I can give a message to myself on when I was like 14 or 15, would be like
Mhm.
your parents already know all of this stuff. No, they already know that they are in a financial pressure. They already know it, and they still trust you and they still believe in you and they put their effort in that would at least should reduce the pressure a little bit because it's just not you on the journey, it's the whole team.
Mhm.
And when I was like, I think on different my first time when I used to feel this pressure was like when I was like 14-year-old, when I just crossed 2300 at that time, and I made my first IM now. But my game were not going good for like 5 6 months. So
Mhm.
each and every tournament I used to not do well, and also used my financial background was not really strong, so it was like a
Mhm.
huge pressure on me, and I used to feel very bad. And whenever I feel I do well, I feel more confident. But at the same time, this used to be a recurring cycle. Even when I was became after even I became an IM, that was like when I
Mhm.
was 18. I became an international master, and still it took me 4 years to become a grandmaster. But in those 4 years, especially when I was like 19 and 20, A lot of time it used to be very difficult because at that level you have to spend quite a bit because you always have to go to foreign tournaments for norms and stuff. And when you're doing good, you don't feel anything much because you feel like you're just doing what your job, your duty is. But when you're not doing good, suddenly it feels like, okay, you have done some crime, or you've done some, you became a burden for all. Yeah, that is how
Yeah.
at least I used to feel at times.
Mm.
And okay, there are two different ways. One, it's like if you're able to express these feelings at home with your parents. I feel a lot of teenagers, they don't do this. I mean, even I did not do this, but if you're able
Understood.
to talk about these things at home, I think that is one of the, in long term, that is the most healthiest way to just share this feeling, because these feelings are not wrong. At the same time, they do not help you. So it's a very human feeling, but it is not something you can make it go away on your own. You have to let your parents know that you feel this, and your parents has to support you through this. And what I did was, when I was like 20, I started giving chess lessons, because at that time my financial background was quite uh, unstable, and I did not want to ask more, money from my parents for my chess tournaments because it was very expensive. So I started giving coaching lessons. I used to give, so it used to be like I used to give coaching lessons for 4 hours in a day, and I used to train chess for my own self for 7 hours or 6 hours in a day. So I used to spend all
Wow.
day in chess, and these coaching lessons, I used to save money just to go for tournaments, and that is how my journey for last 2.5 years has been. And I think in that way I manage it. But again, for those who were not able to do it, I think the very first thing is in performance. If you feel like you're a burden, then the performance would be affected. So
Absolutely.
I think you just have to acknowledge that there's going to be some pressure. At the same time, it is really important that we acknowledge that there are people who supports us in spite of all these problems, and
Mm.
having this feeling would help in performance, because I believe performance is not just about training. Like if everyone trains well and they can perform well, then I think we will have at least 20 more world champions. Yeah. And but it's more about performance is more about how you feel during the moment. And if you're not feeling well, if you're feeling doubtful, or if you feel like a burden to yourself and others, then I think you cannot perform to your level. So just having to feel free is very important.
Very well said. Very well said. I would just add something like what I believe here is what I feel around. This is what my personal opinion is. I might be wrong. Is many people they have some inner wounds. Okay, they will have some self-inflicting wounds, some inner wounds. They would have made some mistakes in the past. They would have done something wrong in the past, and simply like everybody has done that. Everybody has done something which they feel like, oh, I should not have done that. I made a mistake. But like many people, they simply can't come out of it, and that's I think it even happens for the performance. Like what I understood from you also is maybe I would sound a little bit like a parenting coach, but it's like you should have open communication with the parent, especially if you are young. If it's like in your mind, if you are going like, oh, I'm a burden for my parents, I'm wasting my parents money, then it's always going to be a problem. You're always going to feel that way. That's going to affect the performance. So great, that were amazing insights. And yeah, one more thing which I just want to ask you is many people say that if you start coaching, then your game will drop. Okay, your chest strength will reduce. That is what they believe, and many people they actually believe this. Is if you start coaching, then as a player you won't be able to do well. But here I can see a live example. You started training at the age of 20, and you were at that time I think you are international master, and now you're still training and you're a grandmaster. So is this a myth or is it like a reality? Like what do you feel?
I think it's, let's say it requires you to put a lot of extra effort. So
Hmm.
let's say when you're just as a player, if you want to train, you just train for 5, 6 hours. You don't think about anything else. But now you're having extra additional responsibility. Your body also
Hmm.
gets tired. Your mind also gets tired. But it takes a lot of effort, extra efforts for you to keep learning. Because for those who feel it very difficult to do both, for them, yeah, it will definitely affect. For me, what happened was I actually got this fear, this exact fear when I started coaching. I was like, when I started coaching, everyone was like, dude, if you start coaching, you might, your chest might get affected and stuff like that. But it was actually the opposite. Once I started coaching, what happened was, in my coaching sessions, I used to teach kids. I mean, it's not like too basic, but I used to teach kids where I was actually re-explaining thoughts of my own. So
Yeah.
I understood how I was thinking, and I understood how I should. It used to be like a revision session for me, and when the classes ends, I used to learn new things. So it was like even to teach my students, I used to keep learning new things. So now I got this hunger of learning new things because one, I cannot be lazy and just teach the same thing again and again. I need to expand my own knowledge as well. At the same
Mm-hmm.
time, I want to teach them in a way that I, it's how I think, not just like
Mm-hmm.
in a book or what is it, how we see some tactics. So it used to be a lot like a self-reflective for me and learning for the students. At the same time, this fear initially, especially the first 1 or 2 months, I used to be this fear used to catch to me, and I'd be like working for 6 7 hours, doing it really hard. But then what happened was I realized this coaching is also kind of good if you take it in the right way. So let's say if you want to train, you train for 4 or 5 hours on a particular topic, and when you're coaching, you take some particular topics, some different topics, right? So now you're just revising how you should think in these particular topics. Even though, let's say you're international master, you take for some 1600, 1700, chess is like doesn't get divided. Only we put the division of rating, right? Chess doesn't get divided. So it's like
Okay.
the same person, the same topics, or the same way of thinking is ideally what you're trying to teach them, how you're trying to think. And these
Mm-hmm.
things actually help me to realize how I am thinking and what I should be doing. I think that is how I train.
Wow. Rahul, I must say, you have amazing clarity. Me, I myself am learning so many things from you. Like, I never thought it like this. Is like chess doesn't have any division. It's we who are putting in all the divisions. Like he's 1600, 1800, 2000, 2200. Great, great, amazing, very nice insights. Also, one thing I want to tell you is I saw one of your games. You when you defeated Pragananda, and I was actually live there, not when you defeated Prag, but later when you drew with it. And I was like, everybody was telling me that, even the arbiters told me that, I am Rahul, we has defeated Pragananda. And at that time, I didn't know you that much. I just know you from the name, like I didn't know you. And then I saw like you also drew with it, so I said like, oh my god, so really amazing player. So can you walk us through the game against Pagananda? Can you show that game and can we get some
Yeah,
insights from that?
it's opening the game right now. So actually, this was quite interesting as well because
Yeah.
um, yeah, because before this, I mean, I trained with Pragnananda for like 6 7 years previously. From we used to go to the same classes, and
Wow.
so we play a lot of games in the academy. But I think I played with him in tournament for 4 to 5 times on all state tournaments and one time in nationals. So
Mm-hmm.
when we were kids, we used to play, but then only during trainings we used to sit and calculate together or something like that. So after a long time, we are playing, and
Mm-hmm.
this was actually the environment was quite funny because for them they got to buy on the first round. So for them it's the first game. For me, it was the second game, and
Mm-hmm.
my team was completely underrated. I was like on board number one, board number two, there was on 2200, and board number three, four, there was 22, 2300, and everyone in my opponent team was 2600. So it was like completely underrated. And I remember telling my teammate, okay, so let's win the match. And I, I think the other teammate were like more like gave up. Like they were like not even thinking about winning in the match and stuff. I was like, okay, so I just wanted to give some very interesting game. I started with D4. This opening, it was like
Just
actually, yeah,
can you just close the notation tab so that if there is an interesting move, you can give it to the audience.
yeah, sure. So actually in this particular opening, it's just Nimzo.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, in that particular tournament, what happened was I realized I'm playing with Virat Prag, and at that time I was working with Vishnu Prasanna, and I just texted him during one of the preparations. I asked him, okay, but maybe should I go for some sideline because how can I compete with these guys in the main line? it doesn't make sense, right? Because my level and their level is completely different, and they would simply know better than me in these main lines. And
Yeah.
he gave me one very important tip at that time. He told me, just prepare just as you're going to play anyone, not that you're playing against some 26 or 2700, just like you're playing against any opponent. Do not think about your opponent rating, because then what happened? I just prepared on what I like and how I always play. That actually helped me quite a bit. After e3 castle, I started with bishop d3, d5, takes, and I went a3. So here this a3 is not so. This is not a main theory, or this is not a main problematic line for black, because usually they play direct a3. But this particular idea I want to play because it allows bishop d6. Usually without with pawn on c4 you get to play c5, but since I traded, now bishop gets to go to d6. This is the point. And here my point was I want to play queen c2 and I want to go for this knight b5 idea. And
Okay.
this targets are there for me to attack. But here, b6 was played, which was not really in my preparation at the time, because my preparation was you have to go a6 or c6, which were the main moves, and b6, c5 is. I was just shocked. Like, okay, at the time I was like, wait, b6 is possible because like c5 is just coming, and apparently the correct move should be knight b5, where I have to
Mm.
actually just go for the bishop. But then the main reason I did not go for this is I had one particular idea in my mind that I would like to happen in my board, where I would have a much more comfortable position. So I wanted to risk a little bit, and I went for knight g2. The only main risk I was taking is if black plays a6, then I'll go back to my preparation. If black doesn't play a6, then black is just one move ahead in my preparation. So I was just wondering, okay, will he play a6 or not? And then he went with c5. Now bishop d2, and all of these are still in my ideas. After knight c6, I went f3. So the point of f3 is I want to first of all cover these squares,
Yeah.
and later my plan is to go to long castle, one of the major
Mm.
ideas where I want to put my king on b1, and I want to start with g4, h4. So this particular idea I was really, really interested in. And I did not care about whether it was going to be correct or not, because I knew that since black did not play a6, I had to play knight b5. That much I already knew it, but then I couldn't go for this particular idea. So I just took a risk. I was like, okay, but this is my favorite idea to play. So let me just take a little bit risk and try to get this favorite idea, and then play a6. So I was like, okay, now at least we are in the back in a zone. So now I continued my idea with G4. The question is quite complex. And in a sense, this idea I was very confident because just before this, 1 or 2 weeks before, I was at that time with my coach, Vishnu Prasanna. He was telling, you're not playing G4 to attack. You're just playing G4 to gain space. So
Mhm.
when he told me this, my entire understanding shifted. I was like, I always thought we play G4 to attack. We play G4, H4 to attack. He said, no, just play H4, H5. And even if that's no attack, you have a better space. Don't think about always attacking. This is what he was telling me. And I was like, okay, now I like this idea even more, because now I just want to push my pawns to gain more space. I don't think about anything much. And also here I'm actually threatening G5 because bishop and H7 is going to come. And Bragg
Yeah.
had to play a little accurately. He went for g6, for which I think h4, h5 is also a good way to play, but I want to try this g5 because this is again one of the ideas that I had in my preparations earlier. The idea was whenever g5 and knight goes, I want to play e4. Now, what happens is if he takes, I can take with the bishop at the very least. My bishop is extremely strong. And next move, I go long castle, and the d file is open. And it's open in a way that my king is safe, but all of his pieces are under attack.
Mm.
So this was one of my main ideas. And if he takes the d4 pawn, I would always have knight d5. But this square is always a target. And suddenly now it's black who's having some mild problems of squares, I would say. And another idea was like, yeah, in the game, he went c4. So this was in part of my calculation. So it was not part of my preparation. But we played this game, which was like 45 minutes each, which is not rapid, but it's a short classical time. And
Yeah.
where I decided, okay, we don't have much time, right? It's not like a slow classical game. We have very less time. So
Yeah.
now it's a choice between decisions. It's not just a battle of calculation, it's a battle of decisions. And I wanted to make decisions where I'm comfortable and little safe in. Well, if my opponent wanted to take risk, you would have to calculate extra, and you have to be accurate. There's a more chance of him going wrong in well, having less time to calculate. This was my strategy at the moment, and I
Okay.
calculated, and I went for knight into d5, b5, b3, and here we had some very complex calculation going on. But I just realized, okay, I don't have any real issues at the moment, and it is black who has to deal with the problem. So the pressure was entirely on Breck's side because for me, first of all, my personality is like I'm very comfortable with these kind of questions. Where if everything is go crazy, I just start enjoying things. I don't want to get tension. I will just be like, okay, my opponent also has to go crazy. I also have to go crazy. Let's see who's more crazy. So this is the kind of question I was getting into, and that's what happened because after CD queen the C6, now the rook is already on the attack. And if rook moves, yeah, this was actually quite interesting idea. If rook moves, there's idea of bishop b7s, but at the same
Mhm.
time, I could just move my knight to g3 a lot of times where I want to trade this particular knight because I don't mind giving the pawn, but I am getting knight f6 ideas.
Yeah.
And for black, black has to defend all of these ideas. Any one single thread that actually works would end in a mate. And
Hmm.
I think this is where he went wrong because bishop h3 did not make much sense to me at once because first of all, obviously they want to play rook c8, but bishop g2 is also another threat. But here my point was my aim was entirely based on the king,
Hmm.
and I knew my pawns are weak, so king f2 or something would be ideal. But my knight is also under attack. Rook c8 is also coming. I don't have much time to react. So, but what I did is okay. If I don't have time to react, let me just counter attack.
Yeah.
I just went for this counter attack where I'm okay with giving the pawn. Even after bishop g2 coming, I saw some lines where everything, let's say if bishop g2 or stuff like that, or let's say takes here, there's always knight f6.
Not okay.
So if direct bishop g2, obviously I can have knight into h5, or I can even play king f2. This was actually quite funny. I was planning to play just king f2 because
Wow.
now I'm protecting my pawn and now I'm going to take here. So I don't
Hmm.
mind playing some slow chess because my king is safe while his king is under attack. This was
Hmm.
what I was calculating. And after rook c8, what happened was I just decided, okay, what if I just grab the pawn? The point was I wanted to put pressure on here, and I wanted queen a5 later on, or bishop a5. So a lot of times, what would happen is, let's say if it's white's turn to play, for example, I would just play knight into h5, takes, and play bishop a5. The queen is trapped. If the queen goes for d7 or e8, I have knight f6 check.
Bishop a5, queen g5 can come, right?
Yeah, but queen g5 would usually leave this d6.
Okay, 26 or something. Okay.
So there was like such ideas in coming. So I remember I calculated this when EPL Bishop H3. I was like, okay, knight g rook c8 seems like the most interesting idea, right? Because you're bringing the rook. I was like, how do I react? Should I go for queen b6 or I don't? Okay, why don't I just grab the pawn and keep the pressure? If I get mated, I was like, okay, it doesn't make much sense for me to be afraid, right? Because my opponent is like almost 2700. So I was like,
Yeah.
now I don't mind losing. I just want to play the most fun chess I can play. So I just went all in with this, and I went knight g3, rook c8, queen to a6. And I remember I was playing this quite fast. At time pressure, it was like in very 1 or 2 minutes, and I still had a lot of time in my clock. I was like, okay, I just kept blitzing out almost because it was fun. The question was fun. I just started enjoying it, and I did not think about winning or losing at this moment. And after bishop g2, I just took again because I realized if he wants to take my rook, anytime I will play king f2. This king f2 was like I was something I was like always gonna go for whenever it was needed. So I was not afraid of giving the rook. And after it takes, now I thought, okay, now it doesn't make sense to give the rook, so I just moved the rook. And now this g5 is also supported.
Mhm.
And now bishop a5 is actual threat, right? But here I realized, okay, bishop a5 is coming. But this idea of d6 checks and all of these checks were quite possible. And I was just thinking, okay, bishop a5 is also met with rook a8. So I cannot really play bishop a5 at the moment. Because if
Oh,
I play bishop a5 and I trade, I would just trade a lot of pieces. And now the attacks is gone. For example, I'll keep it for viewers because after bishop a5, rook a8 is one of the moves which I was looking at. For which, like if I takes, now this pawn is under attack and this bishop is under attack. So now it is white who is in trouble.
mm,
And this is what I was looking at. And I realized, okay, I cannot play bishop a5 at the moment. And here I came with a very funny idea. I was like, okay, I cannot attack. At the moment, I cannot attack here because everything is closed. I can only bring the knight. There was nothing else I could do. But with a knight, I cannot mate, right? So here I
yeah,
came up with a very interesting idea. I thought, okay, why not add one more piece to the king side? And I took queen into b5. And this seems like I'm just grabbing pawns. And that's why
yeah,
it was so funny to me. I was like, huh, I'm keeping this trap. I mean, I assumed it's a trap to myself. The idea is I want to click knight f6 and bring the queen to the king side and
yeah,
mate.
yeah,
But it was very funny because it did not feel like I'm actually bringing a queen. I just wanted to grab pawns. That's how it felt for outsiders. And that's why I
yeah.
like this move very well. I thought, okay, it's a trap because my opponent can miss this idea. And that's what happened actually. He took bishop to h2, and
Okay,
after knight f6 check, king g7, queen f5. Yeah, here I think he might have seen queen f5 because after the game we talked. He played rook h8, for which I just took queen to f3, takes queen to h5. Now queen h5, he immediately resigned because he understood it's lost.
yeah, good.
And he told me after the game he completely missed queen h5. So he was
Oh,
trying to hold on to the game after because it's not very clear even at the moment because if I take here the king starts running and it is not very clear. And yeah, I agree. But here, my main thing was this knight f6, queen f5 was very nice, and I wanted to just attack the f3 as well. And I spent like this is the only time I spent like little extra time than what I needed to because I wanted to make sure that I don't mess it up at the very last minute. And I took queen h5, and yeah, after he resigned, it was the first game to get over. And there's one small bit I would like to add. It's a funny backstory because I finished my game. My teammates looked at me. They did not look at the result that I put in my board. They just looked at me, and I think two of them assumed I lost because my
yeah.
game finished in like 15 minutes, I think,
Oh
tops.
my
Like
God.
it was a very fast game. Like the game ended very quickly with just 26 moves. And my teammate assumed, okay, I lost. That was the assumption. And I won. I looked at the next board. We are still winning. Our team was going to win the match against the very top seed. But then ultimately we lost a team match. And
Oh,
then they came and told me, at first we actually thought you lost and you left. And then only we realized we are actually 1 point up and we can actually win the match. So yeah, that was a
oh,
very fun memory for me.
got it. Got it. Great, great, amazing, amazing game. And I think like this must be the game where you defeated the highest player. I think Pagananda is like 27. Okay, here it seems 2690, but I think that
Yeah.
is rapid rating, right? Or at that time it was 2690.
No, I think at that time it was just yeah, he just crossed later after that,
Got it,
2700.
got it. But that still should be a great thing because you defeated a player who played the candidates. So
Yeah.
I think that should be an amazing memory. Great, great. It was an amazing game, Rahul, and all the things. I'm very sure that the viewers must have enjoyed it. It's such an attacking game. There were so many complications. Like if we sit and analyze the entire game, it would maybe take us a full day to do that. But yeah, very inspiring game, and I'm very sure that all the youngsters will pick up good lessons from this. Okay, so before we end for today, Rahul, I am first thing I want to thank you for all your insights. As I said earlier, like I also learned a lot of things from you today. Just one small request. Before we end for today, can you play a game of chess with me?
Yeah, sure.
And just to make it more interesting for the viewers, can we do it 5:1 if you don't mind?
Like 5 minutes
Five is
versus one.
yeah, 5 minutes versus 1 minute.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So we'll go on chess.com. Yes, I'll make it unrated otherwise. That's fine.
You're sending the link in the chat.
Yeah, yeah, I will send you the link in the chat. So, I'll share this thing. That's fine.
Yeah, I got it. I'm just clicking it right now.
Yeah,
Ah, mm, I don't see the challenge
sure.
yet.
In the I've sent it in the Zoom chat. Did you get it? I'll send it one more time.
Yeah.
In the Zoom chat, there will be the link will pop up, so you can click on that.
Ah, yeah. I think now
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
good.
yeah. Nice. Okay, yeah. So you can make the first two moves, and then like you can wait for 4 minutes.
So I'll just enter some.
Yeah, sure. Is there a way to challenge 5 to 1? I'm not sure about that. Like in odds, you can do the material odds. Time odds, I don't think they allow like this. I don't know actually because
Yeah,
only
probably
I
in
play.
chess.com they might not allow. In leeches, I think sometimes we used to do this.
Oh, okay.
Like
I should try that next time. I would. Next time I get a master, I will try with the leeches odds.
we do this a lot of time when we are having these time gaps. We used to say, okay, if it starts in 5 minutes, if you get 3 minutes, 59 seconds, you're lost. Something like this. This is
Yeah,
the
we used to
condition
do
we used to
that
keep.
also, but what I got the feedback from the masters sometimes is like they don't realize that they're in time pressure.
Ah,
So it
okay.
feels unfair to me. Like it feels like, oh, I'm putting unnecessary pressure on them because it doesn't just click, right? Like if we play
Yeah.
5 minutes, we play 5 minutes. So there were like instances where I had to tell them that you have 20 seconds left, play fast, something like that. One quick question I can ask you. We have 1.5 minutes. So apart from chess, what are your hobbies? What other hobbies do you have?
Music a lot. So
So
I like music a lot in general. So I
music. Oh,
listen to a lot of musics, and I learned to play some instruments like guitar and piano, and
mm,
those things I do. And I also sketch time to time, but very rarely. So
wow.
I mean, I think I indulge in a lot of different hobbies just to relax time to time. Sometimes it's like I dance. We have a dance studio at near my place, so sometimes we have some dance sessions, and sometimes it's like yeah, I work out time to time. So I've been trying to work out regularly at the current time. So usually it's mostly my hobbies is based on musics. I like to play some tune or stuff like that to relax.
Wow. It's a lot of hobbies I see, like multiple hobbies you have. Having music guitar, like my brother plays a lot of guitar. Every day he will play some different song. He like loves it a lot.
Yeah, but
Great.
it's really difficult. I've been trying to learn for so long, and the level of progress I make is like too less. But I just do it for relaxation. So I don't make anyone listen to what I play. It'll be so too much pressure for me. So I'll be like, no, I want the entire room to myself while I play. Okay. So I'm just
So,
coming here.
6 seconds left. Yeah,
So we'll start, yeah?
yeah, we can start. Ah, ah, I missed that. That's pretty awesome. Uh, I think, how do we evaluate this?
They're
This is
going for some drafts along because I had less time, but I think it was a really nice game from your side.
mm, here. So what should I play? Like Queen six maybe?
Yeah, Queen E6. I mean, you already went little far because I have King F2 or King D2 ideas, King F2, and then I always have Queen A8, Queen into B7. But previously, I think you had a very huge advantage. You just missed
When
some.
like here you
Yeah,
mean
in yeah, here you had a huge advantage like long castle, bishop E3. Okay, you can even go for this bishop into B2, but even
but I said
A6 is good
Rook
enough, I guess.
B1 and then like Rook B1. So I thought.
Or even
B7.
after knight of 6, you play queen a5. Now you can go for a6. You can just play a little slow.
Okay, got it, got it.
So this a6 move would be quite necessary. And okay, I have double bishop, so I can try something, but I was just mostly keeping a lot of traps to see whether you're falling for it or not.
Yeah, and I fell for it again. Yes, I forgot visual experience. So, got it.
But it was a
Great.
nice game.
Yeah, yeah, great, great. Thank you, Rahul, for playing with me. And yeah, thank you again for this interview. One last question before we go is now, what is your goal for this year, that is 2026?
So first of all, I would like to cross 25 and 2550. Like I
Mm-hmm.
want to establish myself as a strong grandmaster because I mean I remember like exactly 1 year ago, my exactly like probably December end or January starting, my goal was like somehow to cross 2500 and become a grandmaster. Like I still had to make two norms at a time, and I did not think I would be able to do. I mean, as the year progressed, I was getting close, but I was not up till close to my goal yet. And suddenly, there was some particular events of things that happened, and I became grandmaster. So it was like a quite nice surprise. And right now, I want to establish myself as a strong grandmaster, and I want to increase my rating mainly. And more than that, I want to also change the way of I train, and I want to learn a lot of new things because I know there's a lot of things that I still don't know about in chess, and I want to improve and learn. And I want to explore new ways to train. That's my main goal for 2026.
Great, great. That's really great, Rahul. And we wish you all the best for your journey. Hope you become a 2550 Grandmaster and also a 2600 Grandmaster
Yeah,
uh, very soon. And I wish you all the best for your entire journey ahead, entire program. Thank you. Thank you
thank
so
you.
much.